Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Abdullah Konte from Win Sports, and I'm here to kind of react about the last two games of the year before the Super Bowl. We had two fun games to watch in different ways. Obviously, I didn't really love the AFC Championship game, obviously because of the conditions. And I think that whole argument about the conditions, in football weather is something that I think is a little overrated. But, we saw Drake May win that game. And obviously, we saw the Rams and the Seahawks go toe-to-toe. And that game was much more exciting, came down to the wire. But basically I wanted to talk about those two games specifically, but mainly a bigger conversation is about this quarterback class and how good this quarterback class has started. It's obviously way too early to assess if this is the best quarterback class ever, but I kind of throughout that whole Seattle game, I was looking at basically trying to go back and look at how these other draft classes started, and if it was comparable to this year's. Is this I guess 2024's. Is there anything that we could compare it to? Is it something that they're pretty uneven, or is this group further ahead? So definitely wanted to check into that. Now, before obviously I just start talking with my opinions and everything, I thought it was funny. I had somebody on Twitter comment on one of my opinions and was like, good thing you're just a photographer, you don't know shit. And it's just interesting to me because what he doesn't understand is like, yes, I am just a photographer. I'm a guy who loves football. I've been watching football for a long time. I played football, and it's one of these things where it's like, yeah, look, my opinion doesn't mean anything. I think we need to get to a point in this society where you could just have your opinions and people can respectfully disagree. If they don't like it, they don't like it. They don't, it is what it is, but, essentially I just want people to know, like, yo, let's take things less seriously. I'm just stating my feelings about what I saw today, as well as like, what gets me excited for the season, and what gets me excited for football in general. So, do you have your opinions? Feel free to own your opinions. Don't let anybody bring you down just because they don't agree with you 100%, right? But basically, yeah, like I don't really need to go into detail of these two games. Like, they were both somewhat entertaining. I can't even say that. The first game was not that entertaining to me because it was very clear early on that Denver was going to struggle, just throwing the ball, moving the ball on offense. They had a quick start, which was great. And I think people will talk about that decision that Sean Payton did not kick the field goal when they were up 7-0. And decided to go for it. I think it was on a 4th and 1. And to be honest, at the moment, I said, oh, yeah, I think you should go for it. But a lot of people made good points on the fact that they just, they're not the same offense, right? Like, when you're in this situation, you might want to kick it. And I don't know if anybody could have foreseen, the fact that the snow was going to play such a role later on. But I would say that, like, the Patriots offense has not looked great to me. But I did think that, the thing about Drake May, I think he makes clutch plays overall. And I think that, there was a lot of third downs. He didn't make great plays with an arm, but he made great plays with his legs. I am excited to see this matchup in the Super Bowl. I would say that I'm leaning towards the NFC. I think they'll definitely probably most likely be the favorite. The Seahawks have played super well, man. I mean, their defense is really, really good. And Darnold, even though I'm not the biggest Darnold fan, Darnold has also played pretty well, right? So, going into that game, I mean, if we're talking about the elements, and like for those who don't love all the stadiums that are being built with domes and roofs or whatever you want to say, man, honestly, I'm kind of over the element games. Like, I think there's fun things about the elements. And as a photographer, I love how my photos look when we shoot them in the elements, but the games themselves can suck, man. Like, some of them are terrible. Like, these snow games are not that much fun. They can't move the ball. We're not really seeing the best of the best play at their best level. So I'm excited for more dome games, at least for these high quality games overall. But I understand people feel like that's a part of football, and I agree with that. And I think that some elements are cool. Sometimes it's not so cool. And I think today was an example of that. So, basically two very polar opposite games. But I would say that, like, I enjoyed the Seattle game much more. And I think most people who were watching today enjoyed that game much more. And there's still going to be plenty of stadiums that still have roofs and domes. There is a good amount of people or teams that are changing their ways, like Cleveland and Tennessee, and obviously the Commanders. But one that doesn't make sense is, why is Jacksonville, the Jaguars, getting a dome? I don't understand. Like, you play in Florida. Like, why would you not want the sun? You know what I mean? Why would you want the air out? You know what I mean? The whole time. I don't know. This is a conversation for another day. But ultimately, man, like, look, what Drake May has been able to do, mainly what Vrabel's been able to do. I always thought that was a dumb decision when they fired him from Tennessee, but what Vrabel's been able to do is very, very impressive. I think they went 4-13 the last 2 years, and for him to get them to the Super Bowl this quickly is crazy. Obviously, they made a lot of great moves on the people that they brought in. I think that even though May maybe isn't exactly the guy who's winning them all the games, he's playing well enough to get them there. But to be honest, I've just been really excited to see these four quarterbacks. I mean, there's 6 quarterbacks that got drafted in the first round in 2024, but it's really these 4 that have had much better success. Penix hasn't played much. JJ hasn't played much, but you have 3 of them who wielded their teams to conference championship games. Caleb was an overtime victory away, defeat away. Like, he was so close. How does that compare to some of these other classes, right? So I kind of was going through it, like, throughout that whole game, I was just looking. I went to, 2020, 2012, 2004, and the famous 1983 draft. And so I kind of wanted to go back and to kind of see, how did those guys at least start? We can't say that this class is better than any of them, because, like, you got to see a whole career go, right? And you'll see from basically some of these, it's some people start off great and then they just kind of tail away. I mean, everybody knows how the RG3 story turned out, right? So how did some of these, QB classes start off? So I went to, I'm going to go in reverse order, basically. Start with 2020. 2020 had the Joe Burrow, Tua, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Hurts, and I'm basically going to go, like, with the most relevant guys, like the top 5 to 6 people. Out of that class, 4 people, it's too early to say who we think will be Hall of Famers, but 4 of those guys have already been to Pro Bowls. Burrow, Tua, Herbert, and Hurts. And Hurts, when it comes to each guy, I mean, Burrow had a rough year his first year. He went to the Super Bowl his second year, so you have 1 Super Bowl appearance within the first 2 years. Tua had average start, no playoff appearances, same as Herbert. Jordan Love sat behind Aaron Rodgers, so he didn't get a chance. And then Hurts took over in year 2, actually went to the playoffs, but was defeated in the wild card round. So, like, it's a decent start, like a decent group, and I think one that could be really good at the end of the day, because all these guys, I mean, Hurts ended up winning a Super Bowl, so when you're talking about who they are in totality, maybe, but, for their start of their career, like this, 2024 class is definitely ahead. When you go to 2012, you have, this is the Andrew Luck, RG3, Tannehill, Whedon, Russell Wilson, Brock Osweiler draft. Osweiler, pretty much a backup. Whedon was released after 2 years, in Cleveland. He was old when he got drafted too, so it kind of made sense. Tannehill went 15-17, no playoff appearances. You know how RG3 went, and he is one of those ones where, like, yeah, like when you look at the first 2 years, he had an excellent first year. They went to the wild card. Obviously the injuries played such a big role. Within this group, the only person that you could say is probably a Hall of Famer is Russell Wilson, because of the fact that he started 24-8, and I'm not sure if that's automatic because of the way his career has gone in the last like 4 or 5 years. But he also won the Super Bowl in his second year, so that was kind of like a big deal. Andrew Luck was also good. He went 22-10 his first 2 years. Went to the wild card the first year, and then divisional round the second year. So overall, pretty good group. I still think that I would probably rank the 2024 group ahead of this group, but pretty good. Then you have the 2024 draft. 2004 draft. So 20 years before the 2024 draft. And you had, this is the Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger draft. I also have Luke McCown and JP Lossman. JP Lossman is that last first rounder that really didn't amount to much. I think he played out of Tulane, went to Buffalo, was pretty much a backup, never really played in those first 2 years. I think he broke his leg in his first year or something like that. Roethlisberger was out of control, went 27-4, won a Super Bowl in his second year. I mean, if you guys remember, they were nuts those first 2 years with Roethlisberger. Phillip Rivers was backing up Drew Brees those first 2 years. Eli Manning made a wild card in year two, but they were shut out in that game. So not the best careers, like to start off. Like obviously we know how Manning's career went, and to be honest, these are three projected Hall of Famers, right? Manning's probably going to make the Hall of Fame eventually. Rivers is going to make the Hall of Fame probably. Big Ben. All three of these guys are probably Hall of Fame players. So, and they had one guy who was a Pro Bowler, who was Matt Schwab was in there. But essentially, this is a really good class overall. Like the beginning part of it was pretty good, and with Roethlisberger, the way how strong he started off, it's kind of similar to how you could see like maybe Drake May. Drake May had like obviously maybe not the best year in year one, but in year two has been insane, right? So, Roethlisberger, the way he started 27-4 in his first 2 years is kind of crazy, right? And then we have the most famous 1983 draft. You have the three Hall of Famers in Marino, Kelly, and Elway. You have one guy who was a Pro Bowler, Ken O'Brien. There was two other guys that were in that draft that really didn't amount to much, and that's Tony Eason and Todd Blackledge. But yeah, starting off, Marino was that guy early on, and it's sad. It's sad to think that Marino never won a championship, because in his second year, I mean, he started his career 21-4, and in his second year, he won the MVP and got his team to the Super Bowl. And, I think people thought he was probably going to be the best one out of that group, and he actually never made the Super Bowl ever after that, so he had an incredible start to his career. Jim Kelly was also interesting because he went to the USFL instead of Buffalo. Even though he was drafted by Buffalo, he went to USFL. He ended up winning the MVP his first year playing there. I think it was in 1984, not 83. He ended up obviously coming back to Buffalo and, the whole 4 Super Bowls thing, but ultimately, he had a good start to his career. It just wasn't in the NFL. John Elway went 4-6 his first year, starting 12-2 his second, and lost in the divisional round in year two. So, honestly, if you really think about the first 2 years and how these guys have played in the first 2 years, I mean, the records probably are pretty average, because obviously Jaden had a great record his first year, not so great his second year. Caleb and Drake May both the same way, having not so great years the first year, but great years the second year. And Bo Nix had a great year both years, right? The fact that these guys are kind of getting everybody excited to think that this could be the 4 dudes that we're seeing in the conference championship each year. Obviously that's wishful thinking, just because it would be fun to see that, be able to cover that. But it's possible that these are the 4 guys that we're going to be really, locked into and watching throughout this the next 10 years or so. But you never know. Injuries plays a role. You never know what these careers are going to be like. But I think that when you really think about all these classes, I mean, they're up there with these classes and how well they've started. Now, we won't know how good they are until, yeah, like maybe 10, 15 years down the road. But just based off a start, I mean, it's comparable to 1983 and 2004. Like, those are the other two I think that you would say are like the best, QB draft classes, and I think these guys are playing at that level already. It's been incredible to see the way Jaden played last year, and I know people are, frustrated about how he played this year, or it just never worked out this year. But the way he played last year, the way that Nix has played the last 2 years, I mean, he's not been incredible, but he's been good. I think May, even though he hasn't been great in the playoffs, I thought May played really well this year. And then Caleb is underrated. I think Caleb has his weird periods, but also when the light's brightest, he's out of control. He's one of these guys, you just got to let him freestyle and let him play his game. But yeah, ultimately, man, I'm just excited to see if these guys live up to the hype, because I think the hype is at its all-time high right now, and it just makes me excited for me. Jaden's progression is very exciting, obviously, being here in DC, and to see if he really is that guy, because I believe it, and I know that there's a lot of people there's a good amount of people, even people who covered this team, have kind of jumped off the Jaden bandwagon. I have not. I think he's a very talented player. I think he has potential to be the best one out of these four. But I also know that it's really close between these four. I think I'm not so sold on JJ, and Penix I think has to be a little bit healthier. We'll see. Maybe those two guys jump in and even enhance this group even more in the next couple of years. But anyways, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'm just a guy who loves talking sports. Thank you for being here. If you like it, if you like what you hear, obviously like, subscribe. If you have any comments or feedback, or just want to jump in the conversation, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one. All right, peace.